Math 50, Section 7.1. In this section, we're going to be learning a little bit about percents and how to write percents as decimals or fractions, how to write decimals or fractions as percents, and solve some applications dealing with percents, decimals, and fractions. So, what is a percent? The word percent means out of 100 or per 100. So, whenever you see that symbol, the percent sign, that means out of 100, or you could say per 100. So here's a square, and the square is divided up into 100 little squares. So there's 100. So this is out of 100. If I say 53%, that means 53 of these little boxes are shaded, and that's a representation of what 53% looks like. Okay? So the word percent means out of or per 100. So let's start with, how do you convert a number into a percent? So here we go. This is in question number 1. In a survey of 100 people, 17 people drive blue cars. Well, it's out of 100. So if 17 out of 100, this is the equivalent of 17%. Okay? So if it's out of 100, that numerator is the percent. Example 2, it says 45 out of every 100 young college graduates return home and live temporarily with their families. What percent of college graduates is this? So if it's 45 out of 100, 45 out of 100 is 45%. Okay? Next, the next objective is to write a percent as a decimal or a fraction. So, if I give you a percent and ask you to write it as a decimal, it's the same as multiplying it by 0.01, or simply you just move the decimal 2 places to the left. That's it. So 43%, you remove the percent sign. Right now the decimal is right after the 3. So to move this, you're gonna take this percent out and you're gonna move this decimal 2 places over. So this is equivalent to 0.43. It's the same as multiplying it by 0.01, but don't bother doing the math. Just move the decimal 2 places over. Okay? So let's look at some examples. Very simply, how do you write these percents as decimals? So again, you're just moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So number 3 would be 0.23. Number 4, we're going to move the decimal 1, and then we have to add a 0, so 0.046. Number 5, the decimal's after the 0. So move it 2 places to the left, and it's 1.90. Number 6, again, keep this in mind. You're moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So it's 0.0074. And number 7, we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left, and you get the number 1. So remember, 100% is equivalent to 1. Okay. Number 8. How do you write a percent as a fraction? Well, percent means over 100. Percent means over 100. And you always want to, when you're writing a number as a fraction, it always needs to be reduced, so in simplest form. So 40%, number 8, 40% is the same as 40 out of 100. Now, these 2 zeros cancel out. It's like dividing both by 10, top and bottom by 10. And then what's the common factor that goes into 4, that can go into 4 and 10? That would be 2. So if you divide these each by 2, you get 2/5. Number 9. You have 1.9%. Okay. So remember, percent means out of 100. So 1.9 over 100. You do not want a decimal in the numerator. So if I move this over, I need to move this over. So I'm going to add a 0. So this is equivalent to 19 over 1,000. And 19's prime, so you can't reduce that. Number 10. Number 10 is 125%. So that's 125 over 100. Now we can simplify this. 25 goes into both of these, and simplify it however you want. So 25 goes into 125 5 times, 25 goes into 100 4 times. So it's 5/4. That's the improper fraction, or 1 1/4. Number 11, a little tricky. So we have 33 1/3%. So 33 1/3 is really 33 1/3 over 100. Okay, that's how you get rid of the percent, over 100. So we're going to change, we're not going to leave it like this. So we're going to make this, we're going to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. You do that by multiplying the denominator times this whole number, that's 99, and you add that. So it's 100 over 3 all over 100. Now, think of this as 100 over 1. We learned how to divide two fractions. We keep the first one and we flip and multiply this denominator. Now these cancel, and this is equivalent to 1/3. And number 12, 100% is the same as 100 over 100, which is equivalent to 1. Again, 100% is 1 full unit. Okay, moving along. Number 13, how do you write a decimal as a percent? Okay, this is quite easy. All you do is you multiply the number by 100%, which is you're moving the decimal 2 places to the right. That's it. How do you write a decimal as a percent? You move the decimal 2 places to the right. So here's some examples. Number 13, 0.65. So number 13, we have 0.65. If we multiply this by 100, that's the same as 65. You're moving the decimal 2 places over. Number 14, 1.25. If you move the decimal 2 places over, that's 125. Oh, and we forgot, we have to write percent. Number 15, 0.012. You're going to multiply this by 100. So you're moving the decimal 2 places over. So that's 1.2%. And number 16, 0.6. Multiply this by 100 and move the decimal 2 places over. So that would be 60%. Number 17, or actually let's look at the next concept. It's writing a fraction as a percent. So again, just like we learned in these previous problems, how to turn a number, a decimal, into a percent, you multiply it by 100. Same with fractions. You take the number and you multiply it by 100. So if I wanted to turn 1/8 into a percent, I multiply this by 100. 100 over 1. And for this you can just reduce, and you end up with 100 over 8, which is 12.5%. Okay, so here we go. Number 17 through 19. How do we turn these fractions into percents? So number 17 says 7 over 20. So you're going to multiply by 100 over 1 and then just reduce. So you can cancel this 0 with that 0. It's like dividing them both by 10. 2 goes into 10 5 times, and so 7 times 5 is 35. So it's 35%. Number 18, you've got 2/3. You're going to multiply it by 100. Now 3 does not go into 100, So we're just going to multiply across. You get 200 over 3. And to divide, 3 goes into 20 6 times, and then another 6, 6 and 66 and 2/3 is what you're going to get. Number 19, 2 1/4. First turn this into 9/4. Then if you multiply by 100, 4 goes into this 25 times, and 25 times 9 is 225, and put the percent sign. Okay. Number 20 is the same as the previous ones. It says write the fraction as a percent. So how do you write 1/12 as a percent? You're multiplying it by 100. That's it. Okay. So number 20, if you multiply 1/12 by 100, you can reduce what number goes into 12. I always reduce before I do my multiplication. I know 4 goes into both of these. So this is a 3. 4 goes into this 25 times. Okay, and then you multiply across 25 over 3. And that, if you do the division, it's approximately 8.33%. So you're actually doing 3 goes into 25. Put some zeros. So 3 goes into 25 8 times, 24. Subtract. 3 goes into 10. 3 times 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract. And what you're going to notice is you're going to keep getting, so you could say 8.3 repeating like that also. Okay. A few application problems. So keep in mind, here's a little review. How do you write a percent as a decimal? You're multiplying it by 0.01. So you're moving it 2 places to the left. Okay. Now to write the number as a percent, you're moving the decimal 2 places to the right. And if you're converting a percent to a fraction, it's over 100. All right. Last 2 examples. Example 21. It says in the last 10 years, automobile thefts in the continental United States have decreased 40.8%. They want you to write this as a percent. Write this percent as a decimal and as a fraction. So how do you write this as a decimal? All you're doing, 40.8%, you're moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So it's 0.408. So that's the first part. The second part, for 21, they want you to write 40.8 as a fraction. So 40.8, this is how I would do it. This is really 40 8/10. Now you could leave it. If you don't want to reduce it, you would write 408 over 10. What I would do, I would simplify 8/10 to be 2/5. Okay, and then I would turn this into a fraction. 5 times 40 is 200. 200 plus 2, so 4. Divide this by 4. Divide these by 2. Divide these by 2, and this should be 4/5. I knew that was wrong. So 5, now convert this to a fraction. 5 times 40 is 200, plus 4 is 204, and then put that over 5. So that would be your fraction. So to write this as a decimal, move it 2 places over. To write it as a fraction, and you could have also done this, 40.8 over 100, because percent means over 100, and then move this over and add a 0 here. So it'd be another good answer would be 408 over 5,000, but then you have to reduce it. And the last one, it says an advertisement for a stereo system reads 1/4 off. Okay, so they want you to write that as a percent. 1/4 is a percent. Whoops, 1/4 is a percent. So again, you multiply that by 100, And 4 goes into this 25 times. So 1 times 25 is 25. So 1/4 off is the same as 25% off. And that concludes 7.1.